Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Mauro, for setting the scene. I think we have a challenge topic behind, so above us, sorry. And I think we have a great panel to achieve it. I think talking about the future is not always simple, but we don't need crystal balls here. We have a very suited set of panels, as Emmanuel has introduced. I think we will be talking about, among other things, about policies, about market uptake, also about technologies to be done, to be developed, to catch up, things to be improved, things to continue going on. And of course, this all together in a more globalized, polarized, and competitive environment. So please, the panel, you can join me at the stage. So thank you for joining me. Maybe we can start by a brief introduction by you, Fiammetta. You wish to start, please?
Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Fiammetta Diani. First of all, I would like to thank ERSC for this opportunity to be again at EXPANDEO. So my role is I lead the market downstream and innovation team at EUSPA. EUSPA is the agency for the space program that the European Commission and the member states funded to implement the EU space program, a good part of it. If I have to say what we do in the agency, I would say 3 keywords: services, security, and market. I'm, of course, in the part of market, so despite I'm an engineer by background, I really specialized, and my team is specialized in bringing space to the market and to the users. So this will be my contribution today to this panel. So thanks, and looking forward to discuss the topic.
Thank you, Fiammetta. CRISTIAN?
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is CRISTIAN. BULUMAC. I work in the European Parliament as a policy advisor for the Green CFA Group in the Industry Committee dealing with space policy. And I did that for the last 10 years, which means I've been through the space program, through various iterations of Copernicus, Galileo, IRIS², and everything we've done until now. And it's interesting because today I would like to merge a bit all this very spacey thing with what's happening in the public administration at local level and in the mind of the policymakers, mixing a bit data and technology.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, CRISTIAN.
Thank you very much. My name is Giuseppe Borghi. I work at the European Space Agency. Thanks for the invitation. I want to bring the kindest regards from Simonetta Cheli, our Director of Earth Observation. And so my role in ESA, I lead the PhilLab. The PhilLab is an innovation lab inside the Earth Observation Directorate, and we work on 2 main things: disruptive innovation and commercialization of Earth observation. And I hope to be able to bring you, let's say, some insight on these 2 topics in the discussion of today.
Thank you, Giuseppe. So to start setting the theme, I will launch a question for you all. You can pick it whoever you want first. So in your knowledge, or what are the key policy and regulatory challenges that need to be addressed to support the growth of the Earth observation industry? How can policy better support, and how can ensure the industry keeps going on to the forefront of the sector, globally speaking? So we are talking about policy in a way, so that mixing a bit of everything. What measures you can bring in, or you think should be brought in to enable this? Thank you.
Okay, would you like me to start? Okay, so what policy? So I think that Mauro already set the scene quite well here, and he also explained how Copernicus is innovating. For example, we are becoming more anchor customer than simply buyers of satellites. We are going through a new approach that will permit more competitiveness of our companies. Also, I think a big improvement that was done was to create a great capacity in the sky. So the Earth observation of today has nothing to compare with the Earth observation of a few years ago. We have the investment of the Union, the investment of the member states with many new programs that are coming, and also the private investment and the new constellation that are coming. So we have in front of us a much better capacity that we used to have in the past. So now the question is sufficient what we are doing? Okay, we can be anchor customer, but can we be forever? We think no, that the real challenge, as also Emmanuel was saying, is to have to overcome this fragmentation of the market and a certain immaturity of the demand, and to have a much bigger demand to, let's say, give a future to this capacity that we are building, but also to give a future to our companies. Europe is still doing quite well in the sector of Earth observation, but we think that the challenge is in front of us. And as potential answers, we think that first of all we need to bring new users. There is an unexpressed demand out there that we think we must intercept, and this is also what EUSPA is doing, as mandated by the Commission to develop this more business and commercial usage of Earth observation. We need to bring new players from the digital world, as also Mauro was saying. We need to enlarge this access to the data and to make it more digital. And last but not least, we have also to think about vertical legislation and regulation that can favor Earth observation. We see the example of the deforestation-free supply chain. That's a very good input that via regulation we are giving to Earth observation. That will be the primary role to set this. We have many others that are there that we can exploit or that we can modify to be more favorable to Earth observation. So that's a bit my view.
Okay, thank you very much. Fiammetta. Anyone?
Well, let me tell you some stories. I was supposed to deliver a speech at a university, and I thought to include as one of the points heat islands, which means I needed a map, I needed some data, and I needed to make the data relevant to provide some information. And then I realized that there is a bit of knowledge gap, so I had to go back to documentation and relearn how to do that. Well, actually there are two knowledge gaps there. The first is that people don't know how to process the data, and this is where the industry, where the market can help. They can process data and provide information to those who need it. But the second is, not everybody knows they need that data. Actually, there is a lack of knowledge at a very local, very basic level of the customers practically. They don't know that these possibilities can be offered to them. And this is where we speak about digitalization. But how is digitalization made? In a lot of cases, we have 7 public servants which use registries to provide services to the general public. But then we buy them 7 computers, and suddenly you have 7 public servants with computers and a table from which they take information. But that's a very limited use of the digital technologies. And we do have targets of digitalization of all the public administrations, but do we have the required knowledge? Do we have the upskilling and reskilling of all the users of those computers in order to really benefit from the advantages of the digital technology? And I would say no. And this is where we have still to work at policies. We need to deliver enough information to the final users so they can uptake Earth observation data or products which are related to the Earth observation. Secondly, I think the industry also has a role to play here, because for customers, if something requires a high level of technology, this is an entry barrier. This is a problem. People are used to having products which are for them totally transparent. They work with information. They don't need to know how a satellite functions or how data is processed. So it needs to, your product needs to be as simple and transparent for the user that every kid could use it, because actually even kids might need Earth observation data in some cases. And for that, in order to deliver that product, you need data. Where do you get the data? Copernicus is a good example, and we have other sources, paid or non-paid. I would say open data is one of the most important things, because it allows you to process more and deliver new innovative products. But then to whom you deliver data, which are your big customers. It's the member states, I would say, at this point, and these public administrations. But those member states are buying, for example, one use case, land use data and land applications which are related to land use. But they are done at member state level. Every village, every commune, every city might not do that because it's too complex. There is a too high knowledge barrier for them, which means you have to simplify your products if you want to tap into untapped parts of the market. Then, of course, member states and the European Union also have a responsibility to deliver the knowledge, to make sure that the curricula in universities and the studies are adapted to this uptake of data. So that's enough stories for now. I have more.
Thank you. Good to start. Well, we'll come back later.
Okay, I try to add something, but I think a lot has been already said. So, despite I'm working into the technology environment, for me the mantra is market pull, is demand. So, as we just said, one important regulation or policy we should do is to untap the European demand, which is residing in a local, national, regional area of the governmental institution. So a regulation that is creating, aggregating all these demands, which is right now fragmented everywhere, I think is very important for the industry because give insurance that there is a market there. And the market is there, it's simply a lot fragmented. Coming to, even going to the direction where USA goes. USA has a law where it is obliging government to procure data from available commercial supplier for their needs. And this is not existing at this stage right now in Europe. We have a nice program that we are doing together with European Commission, which is Copernicus Contributing Mission, which is giving some level of reduction of the market risk and also the possibility for emerging capability to see a market and reduce the risk. But there we need to do, I think, much more. We need to know that 44% of the value-added service market is not in Europe, is in North America. So our market is global, it's not European one, it's not our member states, it's global. And we need to think in this direction, but that's where, let's say, the challenge is. The technology will follow. Other regulation that can help the industry, I think, as Mauro said, any regulation that can foster an open and fair global trade and commerce with reciprocity and possibility to transfer our product or service in other markets. USA is very open to the technology in Europe. They have now policy to buy outside USA if it is, let's say, in answer to their requirement. We need to capture this opportunity, okay? That's very important. There are other markets opening, probably from political point of view, closer than USA, but for sure the market is not in our country, in our region, is a global one.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that few points has been raised. It would be very interesting for our members to go on the conversation, so maybe we'll come back with questions later on. Now more focus on each of you. Fiammetta, now we are taking to the market uptake, we are actively working on. So what do you think is the current level of the uptake of the observation data products, solutions among the different commercial actors? And how do you see this evolving? And also going into your last user consultation platform, so a bit digging on it. What do you think?
Yes, so first of all, what's the dimension of the market of Earth observation? So in last year, in 2023, we accounted for 3.4 billion in terms of revenues related to Earth observation. And we forecast a growth in the next 10 years, so in 2033, to 6 billion. So it's not doubling, but almost. This is coming from our recent Earth observation and GNSS market report. And so I think it's a good news. We have a compartment that is still quite growing at an interesting rate. However, we do believe that these market numbers, despite being global, they are not enough for the capacity we can propose, or also for the ambition that we have. Like in other space sector, we have a downstream market that is bigger of 2 orders of magnitude. And we do believe that also Earth observation has the potential to grow this pie, let's say, so to be able to grow the full sector. In this respect, the value-added services constitutes today anyhow the bigger part. So it's 2.8 billion today, going to 5 billion in a decade, while the selling of the data is still the lower part of the market and will continue to be. So it will be only 1 billion in 10 years from now. So the real value out there is in the added value services, the one that really arrive to the end users. And where do we see the growth and the trend in the market? So the three big winners for the moment are this part of the value-added services related to climate and environment, to agriculture, and to urban development. They account the most of the market. And you serve mainly public customers, you as an industry. But tomorrow we see more and more emerging of other sectors. For example, the most promising is the insurance and finance. So for both the evaluation of investments, so that observation is used to understand the risk and the implication of investment, but also for insuring assets or new development. And this will grow to 900 million in 2023. So we see definitively as a green market in terms of numbers. But also we started to explore healthcare. We work with the pharmaceutical companies, but also with a network of hospitals to see how with that observation we can predict and get prepared, for example, for heat waves, for the emergency part, but also for calibrating the medicines necessary and to organize the value chain of the healthcare system. We studied a lot about resilient societies. Our democracy is clearly at risk in the world. For example, many people are going to vote this year, 4 billion people. And there we can do many things. For example, also in election observation to check if the system is going well. We can do a lot for trafficking to prevent what is happening around our borders, or also for custom control. So there are many things that we can do that we see growing with that observation. And I was quoting before the deforestation-free value chain. We see there a big area also of growth, because this open up to many new services that you as companies, as industry can provide to certify the origin of all the goods. Now it's the main commodities, but it will come and affect all the rest. And maybe a word about what we are doing to favor this, because we do believe that the market needs to be really accompanied, because the Earth observation, as we said, is not something that is naturally used, and there is still many gaps to access it. So the idea is really to involve final users that are a bit, if you want, outside the traditional perimeter of Copernicus and of Earth observation. So we put in place a certain numbers. We have now 6 running of pilots, operational pilots with end users that are not used to Earth observation. For example, we have one on emission monitoring for airplanes and activities in the airport, targeting airport operators. Or we have one on with a set of banks that it was very, interesting to host many banks and funds in the agency for the first time, not to ask them money to give to our companies, but to explain how they can use Earth observation in their own business. And that was really interesting and generated a lot of different ideas that we would have not even think about. So the main target of the pilots is the ESG monitoring and the green financing, but not limited. And then when we talk with them, we discover additional usage. The seaweed farming or the renewable acceleration areas identification. So we have several pilots that really go a bit beyond the traditional use of Earth observation. We hope that this is not, of course, done for us, but it's done because then it can generate business opportunities and growing market for our companies that are, as we said, the competitiveness is the one of the big goals of the EUSPA program in the end. So that's a bit the, how we think the market is, we think the market is going, and how, as Europe, we can also take advantage of it.
Okay, thank you, Fiammetta. It's quite an insight. I see a lot of our audience taking notes to plan for the future. Thank you very much. Now, Giuseppe, taking the same question from your side, which is, you have something complement on the market uptake, and how do you see it evolving?
Yes, I fully share the number that Fiammetta has shared, that are also the number that we see. What the message I want to give is we are a small community. So the Earth observation market is 4% of the space economy. And we are concentrated on B2B and B2G market. So that's what is limiting us, and it is, let's say, our arena where we can play. Unfortunately, we are missing, with respect to the other technology, B2C market. So we don't have, let's say, the possibility of telecommunication or navigation to provide services to each one of us as, let's say, end users. But the market is growing, and it is important, again, that we focus on the market pool, and we focus on the possibility to close, as we said several times, the gap between the data that we like very much and the number we like very much because we are expert of the number and the byte that we generate, and the end user. So we are a small part of a much larger data industry. Our end product is bytes. But people doesn't want bytes. People, as we said, want information, something to understand. And we have to think in this direction. I have the impression we are a bit a closed community. I give you an example. Last year, we have run the first Earth Observation Commercialization Forum of ESA. That was a meeting which I organized, and I made a mistake. It was a meeting organized by ESA, made in ESA, with a lot of, let's say, industry from so on. And the biggest criticism I got was, you need to open this. You need to be open to the end user and to the community. Otherwise, it becomes a club. So this year we will do again in Frankfurt, 27, 28 of November. So I hope this will be better. So data industry is where we have to look, and we have to consider ourselves in this environment. To give you something positive, so we are running a program in ESA. In ESA, we are running two main programs of commercialization. One is the one for the European Commission, Copernicus Contributing Mission, where we make data buy. The second one is an ESA program, which is called Investing in Industrial Innovation, or INCUBED. It's not an incubator. It's a program to support entrepreneurs to develop capacity, satellites, downstream applications, so on. The size is about 200 million. So we have launched the first satellite last year. There are other 9 constellations under development. 2 satellites will be, cross the finger, launched this year. One of these satellites, I cannot go in details, before launching the satellite has already tens of millions of contracts, optional contracts signed. The demand is there, the possibility is there, we just need to capture it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It's very interesting. Now going to you, Christian. I think you mentioned in a recent conference that space has moved from being inspirational to a tool to address particular crises or different crises. Do you see this shift reflected in policy discussions you are participating or you are hearing too? Or how do you see this evolving? What more could be done? You also already mentioned some aspect, but maybe dig a bit more on this.
Yes, I would say it's challenging to talk about use cases in a room full of specialists of the market who are really answering to those use cases. So I'll go back to the policy makers.
Any help, you know, is welcome.
Thing is that the market evolves, but so does the climate. So I would specifically refer to that use case because we look around and we can see, but we also have data. We have historical data and we have real-time data. Somebody needs to make from that data information which is usable for end users, whoever they are. We as policymakers, we create somehow of an incentive. And let me give you a simple example. Because the climate is changing, we regulate a lot. all these regulations need compliance, which is a pain for a lot of industries. But in the same time, those pains are opportunities for Earth observation industry, because you can help people complying with regulations by providing the correct data and information. So I would say that it's not really exactly a target, but we are creating a market by regulating in other fields.
Yeah, I agree. I think this also mentioned by Mauro. I think the Earth observation can ease the compliance of the regulation we are creating, and in the world we are now addressing climate and Green Deal. I think is very important. And I think all of us have well noted this aspect. Thank you very much. Now going back to you, Fiammetta, you are also in charge of the GNSS market uptake. So I guess, okay, the signals are different, but I think we can look at synergies in addressing the market, so taking advantage one of each other technologies and products and services. So how do you think we can best benefit from your activities in one area and other areas can bring value to the other? Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks. So let me build on what Christian said in the beginning, that our users, they don't care which satellites, where it comes from, what it is about. So they care about solutions. Already the B2B and the B2G, so our governments and our businesses, imagine if one day we will go to the final customer. So what we are trying to do is to work around this concept, and so not to look in compartments, so what we can do with Earth observation or Copernicus more, or what we can do with Galileo more, but to look at them together. So, and in this we are, for example, there are certain market areas or application areas where the navigation and GNSS is more mature, is there since a lot of time, for example, in all the transport sector. And we are trying to bring the concept of Earth observation and Copernicus. Let me make an example, otherwise it will remain in the clouds. So we work a lot with drone operators. Many times they are private drone operators that do different kind of activities with drones for inspection or for in the future also for package deliveries, but now a lot of professional applications. And this drones operator has to design a safety case when they fly over urban areas to do their job. And we introduced them the usage of Copernicus, in particular of the urban settlement information, to design the safety case in a more efficient way of what they do today. They liked it. We introduced it in the guidelines of an international organization because the market is global, as we said, so we don't want to limit to Europe. That is called IARUS, is also advisor to the different national regulators in the world. We also put it inside the EASA guidelines and so on. So that's a new usage of Copernicus that was not there before, that we think, and that target a private market, because in the end the drones operator are private. So that's the kind of usage we are trying to do. And the synergy is also in the fact that they use them combined. So they use the location together with the Earth observation to build this case. But let me also tell you a story. Last summer, I was in a Greek island that I will not say the name. There was a big wildfire, not the super big ones that you saw on TV, another one, a bit minor, but still big. And I received the message, SMS message, from the alert of the civil protection in Greece, a new feature that we are going to have also in other member states, that was telling me where to evacuate because of this wildfire. And it was a list of Greek names of villages from where, if I was there, I should have evacuated in another one. And after a while, I received another message with another list of villages and another point of evacuation because the previous one was not available anymore. So I was in panic. I didn't know what to do. And I was grateful to have this information, but I could see the fire on the mountains, and I didn't know if I was in danger or not. This is because this kind of alert system are based on the cell ID, on the network cell ID. And an island can be as big as the cell ID, so it's a bit complicated. So what we are studying, what we are trying to build now, for example, in Galileo, is a more targeted service. It's called early warning service, then can send this kind of alert messages exactly where you are. So if you are in the real danger, and giving you instruction of where to go. If we link this with the capacity that we have already today toward the civil protection with Copernicus, we can imagine, and also IRIS that is coming, so the part of communication, we can really have a use space for emergency that is super efficient, that is giving to the final users the real instruction and the real solutions. And I think we will need more and more, unfortunately. So this is another example of synergies that is not really, if you want, in the business or commercial domain, is more for emergency management, but that is becoming, with the climate change and with the current situation, more and more needed. So that's the second example of big synergies. As this, I can continue forever. For example, I was quoting before the pharmaceutical sector. They're not only interested, for example, they want to calibrate certain medicines, for example, for allergies, but also from the consequences of heat waves, depending on data they receive from Earth observation. But they want also to optimize their supply chain. So they want real-time information of where the goods are, how to move them. And this is another example of navigation and Earth observation. We can go on forever, so I will have to stop because this is one thing that passionates me. But
something remaining to us to work. I think we have a bit to liaise with all the capabilities we have in space and come to a integrated solution to the users.
Yeah.
So
think the user's language and the customer language and what's the real need. That's a bit my...
And also I think that maybe policies can support with policies and so on. It's also to build the supply chain, because here we are companies that very specialized on addressing some products which is in Earth observation, but less on trying to integrate different solutions for different space technologies. So building that supply chain that allows to cover those uses is also important, and here policies and so can also support, because I think it's important in Europe we warranty this fair, competitive enough supply chain in order to be competitive internally and externally. Okay, that's a...
Yeah, maybe one thing that we can go back later, but that came to my mind listening to you, is also that it was quoted before. We have this initiative called Cassini for space entrepreneurship. I think it's not only my thought, but I think it's really going pretty well. So we created an ecosystem of startups that did not exist before, and especially a network of investors, private investors that we would have never dreamed about only 3 years ago. So I think it's really going well, and we see the results in many startups that are growing in Europe. So there, for example, before we had, in our activities in particular that we target the downstream, we had prevalence of navigation companies. Now, in the last Cassini events that we just had in Prague, it was really, really good, I would say, as participation and quality. The most were Earth observation. So we start to see also these new players coming inside and linking the things, and we think that this is really needed, a new set of entrepreneurs that also venture.
Thank you, Fiammetta. Now, Giuseppe, now moving to the technologies part of the game. So how do you say the new technologies and new constellation you are developing, you are working on, and regarding to the field lab, how do you can you support this long-term uptake of data, particularly on the new missions, but also on other missions you are working on? And also related to technology, how do you see new developments? This is a big thing that will happen that we are missing, that will be see coming, or maybe we will miss, so that's important to be aware. So thank you. Please.
No, okay, at the risk to appear trivial, it's clear to everybody, again, sorry to repeat, we are part of a data economy, data industry, so artificial intelligence is the big things. It's not new in the sense that it's here, but what I see is that this is the one that is really transforming our industry, Earth observation industry. Just to give you an idea, so of this programming cube, we are supporting 140 activities, which 2/3 are downstream activity and 1/3 are either complete system end-to-end or satellite. In terms of budget, it's exactly the opposite one. So this 2/3 is for upstream activity and 1/3 for downstream. But without stimulating that, about 50% of the proposal we get, because we get proposal from entrepreneur and we don't procure anything. Our entrepreneur coming to us say, I want to develop this product and service, can you please support me? About 50% are with some element of artificial intelligence. And this to testimony that the innovation is happening mainly outside our organization, is really happening into the ecosystem. So, and it is very important that we keep pace on this because our friends that probably are also looking to us today, we are investing much more than Europe on artificial intelligence, on ICT, on this kind of technology. So the ICT revolution is key for Earth observation. And unfortunately, as Europeans, we are a bit behind a part of Earth observation on the ICT technology. So we need to run two times faster than the other to keep. So we are very good in the ideation, in the technology elements. We need to have, let's say, regulation that support ICT. So the next big thing for me is the connection of all these elements of ICT revolution in an Earth observation value chain. There is a concept that we use in ESA, which is called cognitive cloud computing in space, which means brings artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and this capability changing the current business model where, let's say, the intelligence is mainly happening in downstream, but bringing into the space directly with inter-satellite communications, with the capability and the autonomy to process data where the data are developed, because services like the one that Fiammetta was mentioning of early alert and so on can happen directly in space. And this, from my point of view, is the next big things. The other next big things that Mauro has mentioned is digital twin. Digital twin I see as a framework to put all these kind of models and technology in a single tool that can help to close this gap between the bytes that we like very much and the solution that the customer and the end user needs. So the goal of this destiny is exactly this one: create a scenario for non-experts that they can plan action in the medium long-term future without knowing what is inside, and integrating data from economical data, financial data, health data, Earth observation data, climate data, and so on, in a single tool.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Josep. I think very, very pertinent. On this, I think we have all seen AI coming into play very, very rapidly. Maybe have been, and also we really wanted to see which is really behind. So it's really changing the ecosystem. Is really, or it's just a nice tool that we are using day to day to improve our speeds, to look our searches. But it's really, really changing the sector. That's very important. And now moving to you, Christian. So now on another of the sectors or areas has been mentioned to be very, very pertinent to foster the growth of the observation is the climate. Climate change is happening, and considering your work in the climate environment domains, can you speak a bit more on how the benefits of Earth observation can most effectively communicate it to policymakers and stakeholders in other sectors, and how this can inform the uptake of these Earth observation solutions? So this, I think everybody understands that climate is happening, that there are a lot of opportunities outside there, but still, I think need to be captured, all those opportunities. So we have to work a bit on that. So, yeah, please.
Yeah, I think that at the policy level we do have a problem with using a lot of very complicated terms. I think I've heard something with computing. There were three C's there. Explain that to a policymaker, you will lose the policymaker. They will not. Let's be honest. Most of us are normal people, not specialists in very high tech. But that's the problem, that most of us are the consumers, we are the end users, we are the market. We are the ones which have to pay for those services. So in order to reach us, you need to go down to our level. And AI is wonderful, but by the time that AI will rule us all, we still have dumber applications and dumber needs. Maybe I need to know where to put my house so there will not be an area with floods. Because today maybe the area is okay, but modeling climate change might lead to the conclusion that my house will be in the middle of a river, or worse, it will be in the middle of a desert. So there is a need to know and to predict. And we do have historical data which can help us model climate up to a point where it's useful for everyday uses. That's one thing. But you know, I want to build a bit on the two previous speakers, because I've heard some things which kind of triggered some ideas. We speak about AI, but AI needs data. We speak about applications. Applications also use data. The problem is that every investor will not look at anything else but the scale data. How much money can you produce? And the question is, if you limit yourself to a very wonderful but very close product, and you try to sell it to everybody, you might be a standard setter and a trend center. But those are 1 or 2 companies on the planet, or 3 companies on the planet. If you instead work on modular, on layers, you work on interoperability, you work on common standards, you have higher chances of scaling up to something. So this is where the policymakers have to look at how standardization is done into the Earth observation, how interoperability is ensured, how things can plug into each other, because before going and plugging everything into an AI which will read everything, you need humans to make things function with each other. So in order to scale up, you need interoperability, you need openness, you need to build the basics for everything. And this is where I think we did put some hundreds of millions for downstream markets in the space program. We try to work on open data directive. We try to work on interoperability for various situations. There are standardization formats in Europe which do work on openness, but how do we put all these things together? And we realize that there is a gap, because a small company cannot follow everything. So there is somehow a gap at the policymaking level to help everybody put things together. And once you put them together, you will also have this wonderful app which will tell me where to put my house, or eat more bread or less bread, because grain will not grow in my region. Or if I am a small farmer, maybe this time I have to not put some vineyards in this part of the planet, because grape will no longer grow there. So all these wonderful use cases will come once you have the basic building blocks. And we are still working on the basic building blocks. We've heard data, there is potential to grow, but we need to facilitate that growth.
Okay, thank you very much. For my experience being here in the heart of Europe, in Brussels, and dealing with policymakers, I think it's something we may miss is that sometimes we don't speak the same language, and we don't see the agenda of those policymakers as the agenda of users and our agenda of industry, because the things we have to sparkle on you or on the policymaker may be different than we were thinking before. So we have seen some laws that we thought a priori that would be beneficial for Europe in terms of Green Deal, and in the end didn't happen because it was not what is expected. So for us, I think we understand we have maybe to shape a bit more our message, products or whatever to one side to address, convince those policymakers in order to flow down I don't know. So, but that's my feeling, personal feeling. So I don't know, you see when you are talking to the industry, you're talking internally with policymakers, there is a big gap there to solve or not, because sometimes it's hard to make them things that we see so obvious in place.
Well, it's obvious because you are a specialist in your field. So you mentioned clearly that we have a language problem, but we also have an enthusiasm problem. You just invented a wonderful product which will solve the world hunger, but you need to explain that. You need to market it. And you also need to market it to policymakers. And policymakers might see the problem from a different angle. We've heard drones, and we've heard, I can give you the example that planes also had Earth observation data, and now we have satellites. It's different angles. I can see that from the planet, from the Earth. Different angles of the same problem. So you need to understand the partner angle in order to reach a common conclusion.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And can I make a question to Christian, given that he opened this window? So from time to time we think, for example, the solar panel. Before the people like me or you were not really, if you go to people and you ask, okay, let's invest in renewable energy because it's important for our future. Well, they will understand, but up to a certain point. But when you tell them, put the solar panel on your roof, I will favor you, I will buy for you the energy you consume, you produce more, so I see the advantage for me. And I do it, and maybe tomorrow I will do even without the advantage. So what can we invent? As you can give us some suggestions to make also Earth observation becoming like this, and not only Earth observation, space in general. Do you have any idea to suggest from the policymaker point of view?
Proceed.
I think I just said a few minutes ago that you are much smarter than me in finding use cases, but and I do see that as a problem, because a lot of people are inventing solutions, but they need to invent the problem afterwards. So we need to find the problems, and we need to find the problems by having data. And this is where the Earth observation can help at the basic level. We gather data, we apply, and this is where the intellectual process happens. We find information in the data which would reflect why some results are like that, and we find causalities. So the first thing is to find the causalities, is to find the whys of the problems that we deal with today. So why is it rainy in Belgium? Why my solar panels will not function the same way in Belgium and in France, in the south of France? I think we need, to answer to your idea, tailored products. It was really a challenge to install solar panels in Belgium if you use a prediction model based on California, which was provided by a different company. We need local solutions. From my point of view, I said scale is good, yes, but you need scale which is also tailored. You need to have really adaptable solutions.
Okay, just picking up and to conclude, to do a last round before the questions, and pick it up on what you just last said. We see that regarding to the institutional market for Earth observation, we see the national and the European actors being the biggest client, let's say, but not the regional and local ones. So picking on that one, how do you think we can improve that and balance a bit the demand on that part, so trying to balance more regional. But as you mentioned, there are a lot of products that can be tailored to local authorities and regional that maybe we are missing. So, yeah, please.
Well, I think your question is how can we do something? Well, I would say that it's up to the industry to do something. It's not up to the policymaker to tell you you need to create this product or this product. It's up to the policymakers.
No, we are not talking about product. Maybe try to fill those gaps. So you already have working at that policy level with those authorities. Maybe we are not at the product level of technology level, but more on try to approach, so try to better understand. Because at the end, it's a flow down of responsibilities they have from the EU top legislation, national and the regional. So trying to, I don't know, shall we need better understanding of this, or shall we go, I don't know, what's the main, yeah.
Yes, definitely. Where I see the gap is the fact that although we know the problems, we don't know which solutions we have available for those. So maybe from the policymakers, we can work better at understanding the problems and seeing where Earth observation can help those problems, because sometimes you see things from the ground, sometimes you don't see things from the ground. Well, I think we have still huge gaps in that understanding of the problems. We need more data. This is why your main customers will still be governments and businesses. And once from that data we can identify the problems, we can provide more solutions to those problems. But it's a process. It's only just starting. We don't have a lot of years behind us. We don't have a lot of experience. We see the potential, but I think we have to acknowledge that we have to do something at the policy level to look a bit in detail to the problems and then figure out where the solutions might be. But for that, I think we are in an ongoing process. We start having data, we start processing data, we need more data and more solutions. It's going easily, and we've heard from both panelists today that yes, there are actions which encourage that, but it's not going to be a boom tomorrow. Slowly, slowly. And if you want two words, I would say climate resilience. So resilience will be very important in the future. Figure out how to make your products answer that problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think time is important. Of course, just last year we were celebrating 25 years of Copernicus. I think we have advanced a lot, but still there is more time. Okay, just to finalize with you, Fiammetta, based on your last answer and questions, can you say a few words about how Earth observation solution and Earth observation sector, as a whole, can support the implemented sustainable agendas from other sectors? I think it's important because it's something we can anchor to, so we can show the others that we can solve their problems. I think it's a great way to achieve a solution for them. And if you have any trend or any...
Yeah. So I would build on what Christian was saying. I see that we clearly see that the climate services, all the services related to the climate change mitigation, but also reaction, because we have to enter in this idea that we need to react, are growing. And I think with all EU space, not only with Copernicus or Earth observation, we answer, or we have the potential to answer very well to this. So we contribute directly to this part, as well as energy. I would not like that we forget that with the Earth observation we can indeed give the right indication where to put renewable energy sources, but we can also favor the distribution of energy in the smart grids. We can do forecast of production, forecast of consumption. We can optimize the utilization of energy. The water management. We had many, for example, coming from our startups and our Cassini initiative, a lot of activities related to water management. So I think we are already contributing, but that's the potential and for the future. And not only sustainability in terms of environment, but also sustainability in terms of economy. We need to have a business behind. We have to see our companies growing. So this is another important point.
Okay. So thank you very much. And final for my side, and then we'll go through the questions from the audience. So for you, for the PhilLab point of view, so can you say a few words if Earth observations, current Earth observation solutions, technologies, and all which is around can keep the pace and can be competitive enough in the current situation we have worldwide, and also if there is any missing thing we can work on in order to increase or to better address such competitiveness we are facing. So in the US, in China, so many actors are coming up. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to answer in two directions. So one is more technological, and I'm sorry, I probably mentioned some keywords which are, let's say, jargon for technician and for expert, but are all around, let's say, AI. I call AI my dummy friends. I don't trust on AI 100%, but it's a tool which is really changing the data industry. We cannot avoid to talk about that. And one of the biggest limitations of AI is exactly the trustworthiness of the data and the results and the solution, because AI generates solution from data that we get. So when we get something from ChatGPT, for example, which is the most famous one, do we trust or not? I don't trust. I just consider a dummy friend saying to me something that I need to validate. So all technology that are related to these, like trustworthy AI, explainability AI, digital twins, all these technology are, from my point of view, key to continue the transformation of Earth observation. But on the other side, and I keep repeating what I think this panel is saying, is the problem of the end user. Let's not love the technology. We are famous in Europe for the great technology we have. As I said before, USA has recognized this, and has made laws to open fair procurement to abroad because they want to acquire our technology. We are very good to create technology, not very good to make money from this technology. While on the other side of the ocean, east and west, they are much better to make money than us on the things we develop. So what we need to focus is in our talent in terms of entrepreneurship, in our talent in go-to-market strategy, in our talent to understand where are the problems, and then the data we need, it will be a consequence, not the driver. While I think our culture is still more, okay, we have a great data, yes, but the gap between the data and the solution is still huge.
Okay, thank you very much. So we can go through some of the questions. Can you see the... That's it. So maybe starting for the first one. This is an interesting one. It has only mentioned the security and defense market, although within ER's report we see that is one of the biggest clients for Earth observation. How do you see this evolving? How do you see? It's a maybe a controversial topic, I don't know, but things are evolving in some direction. There is the policy for space and defense, created in Europe. So how do you think? Any hint?
So maybe if then Mauro wants to complement, but indeed the area of security and potentially also of defense is an area that we are looking carefully inside, also due to the DGDEFI's approach, defense industry and space. For what concerns Earth observation, you have heard that there is also the preparation of a governmental service for Earth observation that will serve more the governmental users, so the typical users that you are mentioning there. The EU space as such offers a series of services that for a more secure Europe, we are going to have very soon the public regulated service in Galileo, that is an encrypted service for governmental usage. We are going to have soon also GovSatcom, that is our first venture inside the secure communication before IRIS, that will pull the capacity from member states and offer it to the wider member states, always for governmental users, so for security users. So if you put all these things together, you understand also the effort that is behind making EU space a key asset.
Okay, and as we have talked a lot of the user and address user needs, do you think we have to militarize our offer in Earth observation to really address this market? Because now we are saying, okay, we are dual use application, blah, blah, but we are ready to build up a differentiate offer in defense to address those markets or not?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, I'm not
maybe not for you. I'm maybe for
yes, you're looking at me, so
I'm not throwing this to you. No,
I think it depends from the different areas and the different sectors. But what I can say is, for example, what we did, for example, in GovSatcom, because GovSatcom is this new initiative, still has to offer services, but we build it based on the users. So we created a network of users that are member states, actually, or their representative, but also EU agencies that are in charge of the different policies, so the border policies or the maritime surveillance policies and so on, and to understand with them what are the real needs in the field. To this, we added also the defense users that are a part of the potential usage. But I think there is wider, if we conceive security of Europe and resilience of our society, it's much wider than defense.
Okay, thank you very much. Any adding? Okay, so let's go to the next one. So this is more on regulation and how Earth observation can support those. So we see the agriculture one as an example, but do you see any others? So the regulation, the common agriculture policy, is where, do you see any other that can be mandatory and that has not been mentioned?
I personally don't think it's good to mandate technologies in regulation. So We mandate results, but technologies, I think the market should adapt and provide. However, beside the cap, I think there are a lot of carbon measurements which can also be done through satellite, though they are not mandated. So as a policy principle, I would probably say it's not a good idea. Where you can mandate or at least encourage things is when you want to support a specific industry in a very targeted act. So if we speak about the downstream sector, or if we speak about Earth observation, we might have a regulation. It's not going to happen. There is no proposal for that. But if it's targeted a specific industry, yes. But to sprinkle a bit of satellite or Earth observation in every other regulation just because it is one of the technology ways to achieve a certain result, probably is not good policy making.
Okay, so in the other way around, how do we encourage the utilization of Earth observation to support the implementation of those policies? How is the way? Because I think it brings advantage. That's from our side, how we see. Maybe from the policy making side, it's still to be convinced.
Celestino, maybe to animate the debate, because I get your point, but I have an example in my mind that is something we did for Galileo some years ago, thanks to the European Parliament, actually. And it was, you know, the e-call, the emergency call regulation. No? So that was already there. And there we encouraged the policymaker to put the technology of Galileo inside, to say, okay, if this position of the accident need to be transferred to the emergency service, let's use our infrastructure that is there. Few years after, at the time they said, okay, there is GLONASS, it's not a problem that complements GPS. So now, after few years, I would say that we are happy that we have our system based on Galileo. So maybe from time to time, it's good a bit to promote our own technologies and our own infrastructure, not technologies in this case, because it's more an infrastructure than a technology. So just to think about that, maybe it's not so bad.
And as I said, we did foresee some money for the downstream and for the use cases. But in this case, Earth observation is such a wide field, it's not about infrastructure. And then we will have infrastructure competition because Earth observation data doesn't come only from Copernicus. So this is why it's a tricky choice to be made, and I think it's going to be made case by case.
But it's a tool, and very valuable tool, and very sound tool for many. We have the example in EARS. We have been working. The working group on the forestry has been working with the Parliament, indeed, also to put forward the utilization of those technologies in supporting the implementation of the law. I think has been very successful. It's true that the reporter has an old background on Earth observation, so it was easier than the was just kidding. So, but okay, I think there are a lot of work to be done. We can work together with policymakers in order to showcase that it's an element, okay, maybe not imposed, but at least make it visible to the ones that need to implement those regulations or those policies in order to, okay, this is a tool I can use. And it's cheaper than this one, so let's use it. So that's my point.
If I can add, sorry to challenge a bit, but our competitors, global competitors, they are doing exactly this. USA has a law to impose the use of their asset, and I'm sure China does as well. So we need to consider this. We are part of a global market, and our competitors, they are pushing the industry in this way. They define a stable demand on which the industry can build investment, where private investors can build investment, and so on. We are missing this in Europe. We are fragmented, and there is not much of that.
Let's see the reaction. So quickly, to last question. Okay. I'm saying no time. So okay, but I think it's an interesting one also. So maybe we are not reopening the Pandora box, but do you think there will be modification on the current open and free data policy for companies outside Europe, or this convenience, willingness, any change, any vision? So I think it's a hard topic, but any views? Maybe now.
Maybe, if, as I have the floor, can I very quickly also about the two other questions? Yes,
So
concerning the defense, indeed, I didn't touch that, but I think I think you all know what happened during the weekend. So we had elections and so on. There will be a new commission and so on. So it will be very much depending what will be the future. So we'll see how the new commission will be generating. You heard about potential commissioner for defense and so on. Clearly, defense is a new kid on the block. We cannot avoid that. DigiDef we are a DG where defense industry and space are together, so we cannot avoid that we might go in that direction. I didn't mention the fact that among our thinking, there is a governmental service for Earth observation. We had yesterday meetings with member states. We have studies ongoing. We have a pilot that is also foreseen for that. So indeed, we are looking how it would be better to do that in a dual way and so on. And this is linked also to the data policy. Data policy, if we go in that direction, there might be a specific one for the defense part. It's true that full open and free data policy has been one of the successes of Copernicus. There's not really an idea to change it, but maybe there might be some adaptation, because indeed I think some kind of comments we receive, why should Europe pay for the data that then are for everyone, and then others are using and go faster than European companies in using those data. So it's a good reflection, so we might have to think about that, how to have small modification. But we know that open data policy is one of the main elements. And last point, I'm sorry to disagree a little bit, but I think that is good that EU is indicating in new legislation. I think that space is not anymore for space specialists. It's a tool for everyone. So this has to get in the mind of everyone. It's not that because yesterday you had some tools that were traditional, now space has to be seen as something for specialists. It's something that is there, like GPS and so on. And there are many legislations. I don't know in the end, I agree that maybe it has not to be compulsory, but it has to be favored. There is a soil directive, water directive, LULUCF, there are forestation, there are many legislations. I think there are at least 12 legislation where today Earth observation or Copernicus are mentioned. It's clear that when it's compulsory, it brings us some responsibility, because we have Sentinel-1 that is not working, and so they tell us, oh, come on guys, this is not working. How can we push for using that, and today it's not working? So it's true to push, but at the same time it's bringing us some responsibility. So I think there might be a midway in which we have to work. But I think the European Parliament is very much working with us and helping, and also thanks to the European Parliament if today Copernicus is a reality. Thank you. Thank you, Mauro. I'm afraid we have to close. So thank you. Thank you to all of you. And please join me with acknowledge. In any case, there's any further question you submit, you can join them in the breaks.
Thank you very much, Celestino. Thank you to all the panelists. Glad to see that this role of the Earth observation in the policy generates so much discussion, because it will be the next panel right after the coffee break. So I invite you to enjoy the coffee break, and we will start at 1:30 sharp. Thank you very much.